Let's take a look at compound interest. Compound interest, the formula, first of all, is A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the N times T power. Now, it's going to be important to know what exactly each of those variables stands for. So let's talk briefly about that. A is the amount that we're going to end up with after the given time frame and rate and the investment. P is the principal, that's how much we're going to invest. R is our interest rate as a decimal. Make sure you change that to a decimal. N is the number of times the interest is compounded per year. And again, up here is the same thing. So the number of times per year the interest is compounded. And then T is the amount of time in years. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples here and using this compound interest. For this first one, we've got $5,000, and that's our principal. So 5,000 times 1 plus R over N. So R in this case is our rate, 2.5%. Change that to a decimal by moving the decimal point over 2 spots to the left. So we have that. And that's over N, which is the number of times it's compounded per year. It says annually, so that means just one time per year. Then our N up here is 1 as well. And T is the time in years, which is 7. Okay, so then I just go ahead and start simplifying and following the order of operations. So inside the parentheses there, I have 1 plus, this is just 0.025 because it's being divided by 1. So that would be 1.025. And then we've got 1 times 7 on the outside, so to the 7th power. Then what I'm going to do is, if you're entering this in your calculator, sometimes the way we want to, or we think we should do it, is just to go from left to right here. If you do that, you've got to be really careful and make sure that you know your calculator is following the order of operations. What I like to do is start over here because the order of operations says we need to do the exponents, the power stuff first. So I take 1.025 to the 7th power. That's going to give me a number. Then I multiply that by 5,000, because what our calculator might do if we're not careful is take 5,000 times 1.025 and then that to the 7th power. Well, that's not what we're trying to do. So be really careful with your calculator, and you'll want to make sure that it's giving you the answer that it should be. So I take this to the 7th power, and I'm going to get a big crazy decimal here. It's 1.18868, oopsie, 68, that's plenty of decimal places. Then we multiply those two things, and I get 5943.4287. Okay, now we're dealing with money, so what would be an appropriate place to round to? Well, 2 decimal places, because that's how many cents. So this, our answer here would be $5,943.43, because that 2 and the 8, that 2 is going to go up to 3 because that 8 is larger than 5. So we have 43. Okay, let's take a look at this next one here. I'm going to have to write a little smaller so I can fit it in. We've got 3,500. Actually, let's go up here. And I think maybe we'll erase those others. So this one right here, similar situation. I'm going to fill in what I have. So P is the principal, in this case $500. And then we've got times 1 plus R, which is our rate. In this case, it's 0.0425. Because make that percent into a decimal. All over. This is the number of times it's compounded per year. It says monthly, so that would be 12 times per year. Okay, then that 12 shows up here again, and that's going to be over 10 years. Okay, so we've got it filled in. So now let's simplify and follow the order of operations. So we need 1 plus this thing, which is going to be 1 point. We divide this 0.0425 divided by 12 gives me 0.00354 we'll round it to. And that's all. 12 times 10 would be to the 120th power. Then we take this to that power to make sure that that order of operations is followed. So 500 times 1.003592 to the 120th power, it gives us 1.5284442. Okay, and I'm not writing down everything here, but as I work this out on my calculator, I leave that answer in my calculator, and I'm not really rounding it in my calculator. I'm not retyping this, but if I leave it in my calculator, my answer is going to be as accurate as possible. So do that as you're making your way through these. Don't re-enter things in your calculator. Just use what your calculator has. So then we multiply these two things, 500 times that, and that's going to give us 764.2211927. Now, it's money again, so 2 decimal places is what I want. So it's going to be 764.22 or 22 cents. $764.22. Okay, let's try another one here. We'll go down here and do this $100 in a semi-annual situation. So $100 times 1 plus the rate 0.0375. Again, 2 spots to the left, all over the number of times per year. Well, semi-annually. Semi-annually means twice per year. So we divide that by 2, and that 2 shows up here again, times 15. Okay? Then we're going to just start simplifying things down. So we have 100, and this 0.0375 divided by 2 is going to give me 1. I'm adding it at the same time, so 1 plus that, 1.01875, and that's to the 2 times 15, which would be 30th power. Then, remember, I want to take that power first, so I go that to the 30th power, which is going to give me 100 times 1.745937, blah, 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 on and on. And then I multiply those two things, and finally I have, and we're multiplying by 100, it's just basically going to be moving the decimal over 2 spots. So 174.5937. Okay, so then it's money, so I want to round to the nearest cent. So it'd be a 174.59. Okay. One last one. We've got, in this case, just go ahead and start with what we're given. So 3,500 times 1 plus the rate, in this case is 2%, so it's 0.02, over, it says quarterly. So how many times a year is quarterly? Well, that would be 4 times. So over 4 is my n, and n shows up again up here. Now it says 18 months. Ooh, careful. Okay, our formula isn't t in time in years, so 18 months would be 1.5 years. It's 1.5 years. So be careful that you're using the correct units. So then, same situation, we're going to go ahead and take 0.02 and divide it by 4, which gives us, and I'm going to add it to 1 at the same time, so 1.005, and that's to the 4 times 1.5, which would be 6th power. Okay, then do that power thing first, so 3,500 times 1.005 to the 6th power, which gives me 1.030737 0.75. Okay, almost there. Finally, multiply these two things, and that gives me 3606.321828. Finally, round that to the nearest cent, so it's going to be 3606.32. So $3,606.32. Okay, so compound interest. My compound interest formula is sitting right here, where A is the amount that we get out after that investment with those given qualities. P is the principal, the amount that's been invested. 1 plus R, which is the rate, as a decimal. Be really careful. Make sure you convert those percents into decimals. N is the number of times per year it's compounded. There it shows up twice. And finally, T is the amount of time in years of the investment. Hope this video is helpful. Work hard on your compound interest and all of your math, and I know you'll do great.